Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
هل برأيك لازم نطرد اليهود من فلسطين؟ طبعا. Yes, of course.
Okay, why?
ليش؟
لأنهم محتلين أرضنا.
Because they are occupying our land.
واحد بيحتل أرضك، ما بدك تبعده؟
When someone occupies your land, don't you want to remove them?
I'd just like to make very clear, when they're talking about Palestine here, they're talking about Israel. All of Israel. They want to remove all the Jews from all of Israel.
But they were from this land as well.
بس برضو اليهود هو عم بسأل برضو اليهود من الأرض هاي.
لا ما من الأرض، هذول أجوا من أصقاع العالم، هم جماعات أجوا واستقروا هم، لا مش من أهل هذه.
No, they are not from here. They have come from all over the world.
Evidently not true. Let's take a look at something. This is the Merneptah stele. The pharaoh Merneptah in the year 1800 BCE wrote on a stone tablet that he had a military conquest in the kingdom of Israel. Now, what's interesting about that is Islam, clearly a Muslim, right, was only invented in the 7th century CE, more than 2,000 years after that confirmed documentation from the pharaoh Merneptah. Arab expansion only happened in the 7th century. Arab, what is that? Where would somebody named, called an Arab be from? Probably from Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula. Well, how did they get all over the Middle East, Asia, and North Africa? Oh, because they conquered it. They stole the land from other people and dispossessed them from it. That's how. And if you don't believe me, we can just ask Google real quick. When did Arab expansion happen? The 7th century. Would you look at that? Wow. All right, let's get back to it.
In groups, and they came here and occupied and settled.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
هل برأيك اليهود لازم ينطردوا من فلسطين؟
أكيد لأنه مش موطنهم.
Yes, because it's not their homeland.
Okay, and we're talking about all of Palestine, historic Palestine?
Oh.
I hate this question. All of historic Palestine. There is no historic Palestine. There's never been a nation of Palestine ever. Look, check this out. In 1516, the year 1516, the Ottomans conquered the land, okay? The Ottomans conquered the land in the year 1516. They occupied it until 1917. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed. After that, the British came in, the League of Nations. The French and the British split up all of the former territories of the Ottoman Empire and divided them into countries. One of said countries was the British Mandate of Palestine, Eretz Israel, okay? British Mandate of Palestine, Eretz Israel. Where does this word Palestine come from? Well, the word Palestine comes from the word Philistine, which are an ancient clan of people that settled between Tel Aviv and Gaza in biblical times. Okay? Are they related to modern-day Palestinians or Arabs? No, they're Greeks. They came from the island of Crete and invaded the region. Not related in any way to modern-day Palestinians. In fact, they're extinct. They don't exist anymore. So how did this name get carried on? Well, when the Romans in the year 136 AD suppressed the Bar Kokhba revolt against the Jews, they kicked all the Jews out. And they burned Jerusalem and they toppled the Temple Mount walls. Okay? They renamed it Syria Palestina after the two sworn enemies, the Assyrians and the Philistines, that are extinct, to erase the memory of the Jewish people in this region. Okay? That was carried on. When the Ottomans conquered the region in the year 1516, they continued this name, Palestina, right? Palestina, this undefined, non-self-governing region with no borders. It's not a state. There are no officials there that are Palestinian that have any say in the Ottoman government. Okay? When the Ottoman Empire collapsed, the British kept the name, but they adapted it. Palestine. It's now English, named after the Philistines of old, the extinct Philistines. Then, in 1948, there was a war. The Brits were like, let's get out of here. The UN issued Resolution 181, the partition plan, which would divide up the land, part for Jews and part for the Arabs. The Arabs would have slightly less land in more cities, and the Jews would have slightly more land, much of it being desert, in less cities. Okay? The Jews said, we would be foolish not to accept the partition, even if we were given land the size of a tablecloth. The Arabs did not accept it. They hated it. And actually, a Nazi by the name of Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, who fled to Nazi Germany and recruited Muslims in the Balkans to joined the SS, met with Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and many other Nazis, toured concentration camps, etc., etc. That guy came in and he radicalized the people in the villages around the British Mandate of Palestine. There were about 400 of them, and he convinced those people that they needed to care about national politics, they needed to fight. Previously, the mentality of those people, those Arabs in those villages was, we don't need to fight, right? We don't care about national politics. Those are a sophisticated plaything of people in the bigger cities like Jaffa and Jerusalem. Didn't care about it, right? They cared about their family, their tribe, and their town in that order. That's all they cared about. As long as whatever government was in charge of them allowed them to cultivate their agriculture, they couldn't care less. Until Hajj Amin al-Husseini came along and convinced them to start a civil war against the Jews because the Jews are evil. After having worked for the Nazis during World War II, this is 1948. A war happened. The majority of people who allegedly were, expelled during the Nakba, as Penny Morris notes, only a couple dozen villages were evacuated, and the majority of people fled due to the flail of war on their own volition. They also had Arab leaders in the surrounding nations telling them, if you leave, it's going to be a swift and decisive victory over the Jews, and you come right back. You stay, in our countries for safety. But they lost. It wasn't swift, it wasn't decisive, and it wasn't a victory. They lost in 1948. They lost again in 1967. They lost even more territory. And now they're mad about it. And honestly, like most of the people, these 700,000 people, didn't even leave the country, right? They fled to other parts of Israel, or like the West Bank and Gaza, right? A lot of them were immigrants, like from Iraq, and they just went back to Fallujah when the war started, okay? What happened to those Arabs who were left inside the country, inside of Israel proper, when the 1948 war was over? They became Israelis, full rights-bearing Israeli citizens. And from the moment of the Knesset's inception, which is Israel's parliament, Arabs were in the Knesset. From the moment of its conception, David Ben-Gurion welcomed Arabs into the Knesset.
Or 67.
ينطردوا من كل فلسطين ولا بس من 67 ينطردوا؟
لا، من كل فلسطين، لانه انا اصلي لاجئ من يافا، وانا حقي اني ارجع على بيتي وعلى بيت اهلي على يافا.
From Jaffa, and it's my right to go back to my house and my parents' house, my family's house in Jaffa.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Why?
Expelled from here, like if they come here?
The Jews like in Tel Aviv and Haifa.
By Palestine, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. Like I wouldn't want for them. Like we are all one here.
Okay.
And we deserve to love
Very rare answer, but very commendable.
each other, and we shouldn't expel people from the land that we're living in.
Okay. Without what? Sorry?
And the land that we're living in.
Okay, you're a good Christian. That's a you're a good Christian philosophy. Okay.
He actually, despite his rare answer, kind of sheds light on an interesting aspect of this whole thing. So the Arabs are upset because in 1948 the Jews kicked them all out, which they didn't. But that's what they think happened. That's their narrative. They think the Jews kicked them all out. So their solution is kick all the Jews out of where they're living. And they've been immigrating there since the mid-1850s, or since the mid-1800s, 1850s, right? So they've been living there all this time. They've been reproducing. They've been putting roots down, raising families, building houses, buying property. Now we're going to kick them all out and create the exact same generational problem that we're so pissed off about. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
My honest opinion? No, because from long decades in Palestine there were like Muslim Jews and Christians living together.
Okay.
So, no.
When I say the Jews, I'm talking about the Israelis.
If we're talking about the Israelis, yeah.
They should be expelled? Or no?
The Israelis, like if you mean the Israelis, the Zionists, yeah.
So the majority of the Jewish population lives in Israel. So I'm not saying kick the Jews out. I'm just saying kick out all the Jews that currently live in Israel. Huh?
What about a Jew, an Israeli who doesn't consider himself a Zionist, but he lives in Haifa?
والله شوفي أنا يعني عن جد بحب أعطي رأيي فيكم.
I really don't like to give my opinion in such things.
Really?
No?
I really don't like to give my
I don't like to give my opinion. Even like because in our country, it's the situation is like this.
What, you'll get in trouble, you mean?
Of course.
Okay. Wait, are you going to get in trouble with your own people, with the Israelis, or both?
Well, I'm just happy you can hack it.
صح? You're pulling my leg, like you're pulling me into.
Yeah,
problem.
you're pulling.
This should really show you that it's, again, he said Zionists. It's not about Zionism. It's not about Zionists, because even Israelis who don't consider themselves to be Zionists should be kicked out. He doesn't want to answer, but that's definitely what he thinks.
You mean
I'm making it's problematic? Fair enough.
So,
Okay.
She's studying law.
Oh, okay, so this is good for you. Okay. We're going to translate. Do you think the Jews should be expelled from all of Palestine?
برأيك لازم يتم طرد اليهود من كل فلسطين؟ Sure.
Sure. And you
Sure, kick all the Jews out. Why not? Who cares? Sure. No skin off my nose.
mean like Jaffa, Haifa?
يافا وحيفا كمان انه ينطردوا منها ولا من ال 67 ولا
من كل مكان.
من كل مكان.
Yes.
ليش؟
Because this is our land.
From
And
everywhere.
We need to feel safe and free.
What about the freedom of the Jews? That's my question. We need to feel safe and free. What about the Jews? This is our land. It's never been your land. Ever. The closest you have ever been to having a Palestinian state is right now. 1996, the Oslo Agreement that divided the West Bank up into areas A, B, and C and created the Palestinian Authority out of the PLO and gave Palestinians actual governmental control over their people. First time in history, 1996. And how did that happen? With the good graces and courtesy of the Israeli people. Without them ceding that territory to you, you would not have it. You would not have the land that you are standing on right now. It would be under Israeli control. Instead, it's under Palestinian control, the PA.
We want to go and see Jaffa and Haifa and Jerusalem.
So go see Haifa and Jaffa and Jerusalem. Jaffa is an Arab neighborhood. I was just there last week. You can hear Muslim prayer calls throughout the city. Go to Jaffa. You can do that. Hundreds of thousands of Arabs cross the border from the Palestinian territories to Israel every single day. I was just with Danny Tirza, he's a retired IDF colonel, who designed the border fence between the West Bank and Israel. Hundreds of thousands of Arabs, Muslims, cross every single day to work in Israel, to get health care in Israel, whatever they want to do, they can do it. 100,000 people every single day.
Okay.
All these places.
What if you could be free and equal and still live with the Israelis?
No.
Why?
If they don't have sulta,
The authority or the power.
yes, if they don't have a power on us, okay, I don't mind.
All right. So they can't have authority on you. You can't live under a government that has Jews in it. But you want to inflict what you want to do on them. That's cool. But it's not cool the other way around.
If meaning if Palestinians controlled everything?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't mind.
What if you shared power together? No? Like meaning
It's our land.
you won't share power?
See, it's just on repeat, like this indoctrination. It's our land, it's our land, it's our land. Okay. Generally, if something is yours, it means you possess it, right? If I say, I possess this TV remote, this television remote, right? It's my remote. But actually, there's no remote. I don't have a remote, right? It's my neighbor has a remote, and it turns his TV on. And I'm saying that's my remote. I didn't buy the remote. I didn't work the land of the remote. It's never been my remote. I want his remote, so I call it my remote. That's exactly what's happening here. They want the land, it's not theirs, and so they call it their land until people start believing them, and unfortunately that's what's happening right now.
Power with the Jews?
No. With anyone.
Okay.
I don't share power with anyone.
Does he think Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
هل برأيك لازم يتم طرد اليهود من فلسطين؟
طبعا. All of Palestine?
لازم يتم طردهم من كل فلسطين؟
في يهود اصلا موجودين تاريخيا في فلسطين حقهم يرضوا هالمواطنين في دولة فلسطين. بس اللي اجوا من اوروبا ومن امريكا اللي هم اجوا احتلوا ارضنا دول لازم يطلعوا.
There has always been Jews in Palestine who are natives, but the ones that came from Europe and the States, they're the ones who are occupying us.
What about?
Yeah, so there always has been native Jews, as we've established. Merneptah wrote on a stone tablet 2,000 years before your religion existed, that there were Jews in the land. Those people got kicked out by invading empires like yours. And then every single year from that point on, from the point at which they got kicked out onwards, they said, until next year in Jerusalem during Passover. Every single year, until next year in Jerusalem. They held on culturally to that tie to the land for all this time. Right? Let's look at an example like 1921, the Hebron massacre. Right? You had a bunch of Jews who had been living in the city of Hebron for hundreds of years. They were kicked out of Spain during the Spanish Inquisition in the year 1492. When the Jews started immigrating to Israel in the 1850s, right, there was a lot of tension between what they call the old Yeshiv and the new Yeshiv, the old Jews and the new Jews. The old Jews saw Zionism as a disrupting force in the region. They didn't like it. Okay, a lot of tension between these two groups. They didn't like each other, right? But what happened in 1921? The Arabs living in Hebron murdered the Jews who had been living there for hundreds of years. It does not matter if you're native as they define it, or if you've been living there for hundreds of years. It doesn't matter. At this point, Jews have been living in Israel for hundreds of years. It doesn't matter to them, right? What matters is that you're a Jew. They're looking at you as if you have a yellow star on your chest. That's all that matters to them.
What about someone who's Iraqi or Moroccan?
طب مثلا اليهود العراقيين أو اليهود المغاربة, they should go back to Iraq.
Yep. Jews that we kicked out of our Arab countries that we already own, which consists of most of the Middle East, Iraq, Morocco, Egypt, etc., etc. Nah, kick them out. See you later. Not even the like Arab Jews, right? Jews from Arab countries, Mizrahi, not even they can stay. They also have to be gone.
Okay, what if?
Why? Because they're Jews.
It was one state and everyone was living as equals and had full rights.
طب لو كلياتنا الفلسطينية والإسرائيليين عاشوا في دولة واحدة وكان عندهم حقوق متساوية.
كيف بده يطلع حقوق متساوية؟ في عندنا احنا 400 قرية فلسطينية انمحت صاروا محلها يهود. رجيهم يرجع هذول الناس محلهم اوكي.
How can we be equal? There are 400 villages that have been wiped out.
Not wiped out, your people left those villages. Again, the majority of those people, per Benny Morris, who's probably one of the most objective historians in this conflict, fled due to the flail of war. Because they didn't want to be entangled in a war. So they left. You know, they were told that it was going to be swift and decisive, and they come right back. It wasn't swift, wasn't decisive, and it wasn't a victory. They lost, and they couldn't come back. But all the Arabs who were still living within Israel were made citizens, and some of them were invited into the Knesset, the parliament.
So if you bring those 400 people back, the people of these 400 villages back, then maybe.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
هل برأيكم اليهود لازم يتم طردهم من فلسطين؟
Yes, sure. That's sure.
All of course, yeah, sure.
يعني بيتها فيها شهداء كثير الجماعة عندنا
Especially since from there is a lot of martyrs because there's always settlers there.
Okay.
On Jabal Sabir. Now there is an action on Jabal Sabir.
And there's like action, there's like violence going on.
Violence going on.
Jabal Sabir.
Okay. And when you say Palestine, do you mean all of 48 Palestine also? The Jews have to leave?
Sure. All Palestine is for the Palestinian.
Okay. And why can't the Jews stay?
Sorry?
Why can't the Jews stay?
They can stay, but with rules of Palestinians.
With the Palestinian rules?
Yes, of
Only
course.
under...
Only if they're dhimmis. They can only stay if they're dhimmis of the new Palestinian state.
Palestinian land.
And again, it's not Palestinian land. Never, ever, 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 in the history of literally ever, has there ever been a Palestinian state even one time. Ever. Never. The closest they've ever been is right now. with the Oslo Agreement, which fell apart after Yasser Arafat mass murdered over 1,000 Jews.
We don't say they have. Okay, for now, I will say no. They cannot because I have some hated issues because they killed the Palestinian people. But in the general, we don't say no Jewish at all can be here in Palestine. But if they want to be here, they have to stay with our rules because it's our land.
So she's saying, I don't think we should, I'm not saying there can never be Jewish people here, but I'm really mad at them right now, so I say kick them all out.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
طيب هل برأيك إنه اليهود لازم ينطردوا من فلسطين؟
احنا ما بنقول ينطردوا، احنا بنقول نعيش بسلام، دولتين، دولة بجانب الأخرى، كل واحد ياخذ حقوقه. ما يكون في تمييز، ما يكون في عنصرية في أسفل.
And we can live one state next to each other and live next to each other.
In two states.
دولتين بجانب بعض، كل واحد ياخذ حقوقه بدون عنصرية، بدون اضطهاد لأي شعب.
It's very refreshing to see like a level-minded person. Unfortunately, a two-state solution is never going to work in the current political climate in this region. But it's nice to see somebody who isn't just like, yeah, let's just kick them all out.
One takes their rights without any hatred and without any racism.
Okay. What happens to the settlers who are in the West Bank?
طب دولتين شو بصير في المستوطنين اللي في الضفة الغربية؟
تتقسم بناء على اتفاقيات السلام اللي كانت موقعة مسبقا. بناء عليها يقسموا المستوطنين الغير قانونيين يرحلوا على المناطق القانونية والفلسطينيين ياخذوا أرض.
Settlers who are here illegally can go to the legal lands on their side, and then the Palestinians.
إحنا ما بصير نطرد شعب ونحط شعب ثاني بداله.
Because it is not right, or it does not work that we expel one people and take its place.
Do you think the Jews should be expelled from Palestine?
I do, from my opinion, because it's our country. Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about also from the Israel side, like meaning.
See how it's always the same thing every time. Like again, the remote analogy, right? If I don't have the remote and it belongs to my neighbor, it's not my remote. It turns his TV on, not mine. It's not my remote. I don't possess it. I don't possess it, I'm not defending it. If you're not possessing something, you're not defending it, it probably doesn't belong to you.
Yeah, from like Tel Aviv, from Haifa.
Yeah, sure.
Yes?
All Palestine is ours.
Okay. What do you think?
Yes. For Jews as religion or Zionism.
The question is Jews.
Yes.
And there you go. It's not about Zionism. It is not about Zionism. It's not about anything other than the fact that they are Jews. He just said, should all the Jews be removed? And she said, are we talking about Jews or Zionism? And he said, the question was Jews. And she said, yep, kick them out.
Okay.
Because it's our land, and we as a Muslim, we welcome Jews as a religion. We welcome them to live with us and practice their religion beliefs as we practice our Muslim beliefs.
Okay.
And that's what Muhammad's prophet learned us. He learned us from long ago, to be homeless and respect all religion around the world.
Okay, so let's say all the Jews, all the Israelis, decide to stay. Can they stay under Palestine?
Under Palestine.
Mm-hmm. As equals?
No, they can't.
Why?
There we go. Can all the Jews stay under Palestinian rules, under a Palestinian state? Nope, they can't live as equals. Absolutely not. They don't like Jews. That's it.
Because they're not like the real people who live in here.
Evidently they do live here and you're mad about it. Like, what do you mean they don't live here?
Because we are the citizens here.
You're not indigenous. You're an Arab, right? You came from the Arabian Peninsula. That's where your ancestors are from because you're, again, an Arab from Arabia.
Just like traveler.
Actually, it's what your people do. The Bedouins, right? They're nomadic people. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they can't stay here for a long time. It's our land.
Okay, hold on. What do you think?
Yes, it's our land.
Look how easily her mind has changed. 1 second ago, she said, Muhammad said that we need to be hospitable to these people. We need to, accept Judaism as a religion. Just kidding. My sister over here made a really good point that it's actually our land and we should kick all the Jews out because we don't like Jews. I just forgot for a second.
Yeah, but there's a contradiction because you said the Jews can live here. Muhammad taught you this, but now you're saying no.
Well, they are taking our.
Prophet Muhammad is like somewhere right here, maybe for that. And then hating Jews is like way up here, right? Religion and Prophet Muhammad, blessed be his name. Hating Jews, paramount, the end all be all.
Land from us.
I'm saying if it's under Palestine, it's all one country.
They can, but not for a long time.
So what? As tourists?
As pilgrims.
Oh, they can come as pilgrims,
Yes.
but they can't live here. They can't own property.
Yes. Yeah, they can't take our land because they want to live here. They can.
Are they allowed to buy
can't
property?
Travelers.
Are they allowed to buy property? Like to buy a house?
No.
Because they are going to be owners. Yeah. And
They're going
we
to be
are
what?
the real owners.
Oh, they're owners.
Yeah.
You're evidently not the real owners, right? If you were the real owners, you'd own the land, but you don't.
They can't be that because this land can't be like
Shared with Jews because we hate them.
by them.
Okay.
Yeah. That was absolutely treacherous. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment what you thought of this down below. Join the Discord linked in the description if you enjoy talking to people about these issues. We have lots of people in there and lots of discussions. Make sure to join.